All right, you guys, welcome back to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. I'm here with a friend of ours now, and honestly, one of our Dip Magic and Hacksaw and Self Made's biggest supporters. Well, him and his wife, that is, the McKinney family. This is a friend of ours, Shane. I wanted to have him on the podcast here today because he's a store manager at a local In-N-Out here in California. And I personally wanted to get some insight into how the operations of an In-N-Out, but I also think it could be beneficial to others listening because from what I understand, it seems like a pretty good job opportunity, from entry level all the way up to management and what have you. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and let Shane kind of introduce himself, and then we'll get to talking about who he is and what he does.
What's up, guys? Corey, thanks for letting me jump up on here with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like Corey said, worked for In-N-Out Burger. I've been there for about 12 years now. I'm married. I have 3 kids, 3 boys, an 8-year-old, and then twin boys that are 4. So life is a little bit crazy with those guys, that's for sure. Especially having 2 kids at one time. That's an adjustment within itself, right there. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much me.
Awesome, man. Yeah. We always said we wanted twins, but that's insane. So you said you had one boy and then the next 2 were twins.
Yeah.
So you didn't
I always
really
said, huh?
you didn't really get to go from 1 to 2. You went from 1 straight to 3.
Yeah. And
That's
I remember like being like told, hey, you're having 2 more. I'm like, what? Like that's a
yeah.
hard one to swallow.
Yeah, what a awesome surprise. I mean, I'm all about family, and I take it, other couples who are having kids and expanding their families are all about families too. So definitely not a bad thing, but probably pretty crazy adjustment period, huh?
Yeah. I would say, one of the hardest things was having a kid that was potty trained and able to speak to you, and then going straight back to 2 babies
Yeah.
that don't, that like you have to give everything
Oh
to,
yeah.
but there's 2 of them.
How old was your son when you had the twins?
4.
He was 4 years old. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how old Cruz was when we had Stevie, um, which is interesting, I think, because they're old enough to kind of understand what's going on, but not really quite mature enough to really grasp it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know
Yeah.
if you experienced any of the same stuff as us. Did he go through any regressions, or did he have like a
No, he
difficult
actually
time?
like accepted it super well.
Really?
Yeah, it's the crazy part too is like we try to do things like separately with the kids, like mom, dad, and Luke, our oldest, and then the
Yeah.
twins, and or I take Luke, on something, and like a day goes by, and he's like, "Oh man, I miss them," And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dude, like what? Like you
That's
don't like not having them trailing around everywhere?" Like,
yeah. That's rad, man. Sorry, did you say the twins were boys?
yeah. So I have 3
Okay.
boys.
Got it. Yeah, that probably helps too a little bit because I think bigger brother, younger brothers is a decent dynamic to have. I
Hmm.
don't think bigger brothers like their little sisters too much, especially
Yeah.
not with what we've experienced with my son. Um, Dude, he was very he was kind of weird when he first realized that there was another family member. Like he was staying with his grandma when Stevie was brought into the world, and then he came to visit, and he was just kind of like, okay, let's time to go back to grandma's house. Like he'd want to come stay with his family, and he was acting very strange. And then for a while, he went through a phase of like wanting to exterminate her. Like he would we had her sleep in this rocking chair thing, and he would go put towels and stuff on her head, and we'd be like, dude, what are you doing? And he'd be like, oh, I'm trying to kill her. Like completely honestly, like trying to kill his sister,
Yeah.
Granted, he didn't really know what was going on, but he didn't like having a little sister, and he eventually started seeing some regressions too. Like he'd kind of piss his pants just standing there every once in a while. So pretty weird. Pretty awesome that you didn't have to deal with that because that's a
Yeah.
strange time, and good for you, man. Good for you. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy how kids are.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we're having our 3rd now too, and you know, super excited about that. But anyways, that being said, let's get into In-N-Out. One thing I am very intrigued by is, first of all, I don't think many people can argue that there's a better hamburger joint in California, or really even in the country for that matter, that provides what they do, given the pricing and the quality of their food. I mean, you're spending um, fast food prices for
Hmm.
like authentic, clean burgers. You know what I'm saying? Like I see that you guys peel the fries there. You do it's all fresh, right?
Yeah. What you
Yeah.
see is what you get.
Yeah, that's I'm intrigued by the quality of the restaurant, but I'm also very fascinated with their business model and the success that they've seen with it. Because if you're listening and you've never been to In and Out, basically when you pull up to their drive-through or you walk in and you take a look at the menu, they have like three staple menu items: a number one, a
Hmm.
number two, and a number three, and it's like a cheeseburger, a hamburger, and then I don't remember the double
A double
double,
double.
right?
Yeah.
So basically, you can have a hamburger, a cheeseburger, or a double cheeseburger, and that's it. I mean, I know there's like a secret menu and whatnot, like you can ask for special stuff, but as far as like how they market themselves, very simple in nature, but also very successful. And
Yeah.
um, I mean, do you know much about the story behind In and Out? Like, do you guys talk about the history and how that came to be?
Yeah. So I mean, the cool part about when you do become a manager in and out, you actually go up to the university and sit there through like history classes and a bunch of different classes about In and Out Burger, about how to be a manager, how to be a leader. Everything's leadership based. I definitely get a lot from it. I know when I first quit going to college after a semester, I told my parents, like, hey, I'm going to be a manager. They looked at me like I was wild, and it kind of took me a little bit to prove to them, like, hey, one, I work for a great company, and two, like, it all pays off, I promise you. So I just kind of had to prove to them that, like, nah, this is good.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, I mean, the history within itself is cool. I know I'm always like trying to learn more and more about the history. So it started back in 1948 by Harry and Esther, and then it got handed down to the sons, and then they both passed away, and so it got handed down to the granddaughter. So she sole owner of In-N-Out Burger, one person. I
Oh
know a lot
wow.
of people ask like, "Hey, think it'll ever be franchised or anything like that?" And it never will. She's super, um, I guess, like stuck in the way that she wants to keep it just like her grandparents had it.
Oh, right on. So she's just staying true to the roots.
Yeah, it kind
I
of takes a lot to change anything.
Yeah, but I honestly I think that's a really good thing is staying true to yourself in business and just in life in general. Being a business owner myself and being a lot of my peers and people in my network being business owners, it's very common for people to just want to expand and want to grow and ultimately want to make
Hmm.
more money. And I think that's a downfall I see in a lot of people when they're running their businesses. They're focused on the growth, they're focused on the income and what they're making, as opposed to just focusing on the true value that they're providing. And it sounds kind of like In and Out is more so concerned with um, staying true to their value, which I think is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And it also sounds like you guys have a pretty good culture over there, like how you say they're leadership based. I think
Hmm.
that's also very impressive, especially for something like a chain fast food restaurant. I don't think you go into McDonald's or Burger King and they're talking about leadership much.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
I
sure.
think.
Go ahead.
Well, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I think every business obviously like wants to promote some sort of leadership within their ranks, but there's a big difference when you put an emphasis on that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, as a manager, they teach you like, hey, you are co-owner of this store. You have to run it as if it's your own.
Yeah,
And so like every decision I make as a store manager affects me too. And so it's like teaching me how to run a business, but also with the guidance of someone else too.
that's rad.
And I didn't have to pay for everything out of my own pocket. So it's not like I opened up my own store and had to pay for that.
Yeah, kind of like being a franchise owner without the initial
Exactly.
investment. They're still giving you that responsibility and that ownership.
Yeah.
That
Like I have to be smart about like my gas and electric bill because I pay for it.
Oh
There's a bunch
wow,
of different things. Yeah, they make me budget like a maintenance bill and everything like that.
that's awesome. I think a lot of people may look at that as like you know a fraud or what the people who don't know much about running a business looking in oftentimes don't understand business concepts and whatnot. But
Hmm.
I'm willing to bet that whole philosophy behind that has actually helped you to grow and helped you probably appreciate it, right? Even though it's
Yeah,
something coming out of your pocket, it's teaching you more values and more lessons than just getting a flat rate paycheck every month or every 2 weeks, regardless of how you perform.
yeah. I mean, a lot of my performance goes into a bonus,
Yeah,
and so it does affect me money wise.
yeah,
If I'm not doing good in controlling labor cost or not looking ways not looking at different ways to sell more burgers, it's going to affect me.
Yeah.
So like I can't hire a bunch of like people that aren't great people that want to help other people. Then people are not going to want to come to my store.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Yeah. That's pride and ownership, man.
Exactly.
And I talked about this on our podcast, the Dadcast I do the other
Hmm.
week, but that's something I've always encouraged people to do is take pride and ownership in your job, like regardless of what it is. Like if you've agreed to serve a purpose at a job, you should take ownership. You should try to provide value to your job as opposed to just showing up and collecting a paycheck. Um, I remember somebody I was in a car one time, like we were pulling into my apartment complex, and there's a front gate security guard, and he was kind of giving us a hard time because we didn't have whatever I needed or whatever to get into our own apartments. I didn't have like my key fob or something, and he was enforcing that. And somebody in the car was like, "Wow, that guy takes his job way too seriously." And I was like, the fuck do you mean he takes his job too seriously? Like
Yeah.
his job is to protect our apartment complex, and that's exactly what he's doing. Like, yeah, sure, for us it was kind of a pain in the ass in the short term, but he's doing what he signed up to do. And,
Yeah.
and and I think that anybody, like regardless of who you are or what job you have, and I talk about this all the time too, because I'm big on the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm big on doing things for yourself and starting your own business. But if you treat anything like it's your own business, whether that means you're a 9 to 5 employee, whether that means you're salaried and you're a manager of a store, or you're running your own business, um, if you take that pride and ownership and you treat it as if it's your own, you're probably going to open up opportunities that most people aren't going to get just by showing up and collecting a paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
In self-employment, you have to do it. Otherwise your business is just not going to work. You're not going to make any money. Um, as a W-2 employee, you don't necessarily have to do it. You can, show up and go through the motions, but you're also probably going to find yourself complaining about the minimum wage at some point in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are like what we call check collectors.
Yeah. I'm
you
sure
know?
you guys get them in and out too, even though you probably try to filter through them on the way in, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, that I think is cool about In and Out is I have 16-year-old kids that I'm trying to teach this to. This is
Yeah.
their very first job that don't know anything about working. It's like I look at them sometimes, I'm like, that don't even know how to sweep a floor. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang, dude, we got to start here. So I think it's cool. Like one of my favorite parts about In and Out is being able to be like a stepping stone for a 16-year-old kid that doesn't know how to work. I'm
Yeah.
like, cool, I get to teach you.
Yeah.
I get to teach you the ownership mindset. And I do orientations for people, as they come in. And one thing I would say is like, hey, the store is mine, it's yours, but it's more yours. Like I want you to come in here and you own it,
Yeah.
and like have that mindset.
Yeah. That's rad. You're kind of you're teaching them the ownership and taking responsibility for what's theirs, even if it isn't, directly theirs. But that's rad, man. Talk about a damn good opportunity for any 16-year-old to get into, because I mean that in itself is. I didn't have that. My first job was at Target when I was 16, and then I worked at PetSmart, and
Hmm.
nobody taught me shit about anything. They taught me how to use a register. They taught me how to like scan things and whatnot, but there was no philosophy. There was no mindset. It was more so if you're late, you're penalized. If you're not, cool. They may still be a dick
Hmm.
to you depending on who your manager is at the time. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
um, definitely nothing like what you're describing. And now I'm not going to ever point the finger or say something is anybody else's fault, but by the time I was 18 years old, I really had no clue what I was doing in life. So I joined the Marines because of that. Like who knows? Maybe if I would have ended up somewhere like what you guys are doing at In and Out, where you are teaching these young teens and people going into early adulthood what they may not be learning at home or what they may not be learning in high school. Who knows? Things may be a lot different. Um,
Yeah.
it's a very important time of your life when you're leaving adolescence into early adulthood. And
Definitely.
you take the wrong path or you take the right path, or you take the wrong or right guidance, and that can really shape your future for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it could put you back a long ways if it's the wrong person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe everything in life, everywhere we get and everything we accomplish is all based on mindset. So I think that's amazing that you guys are doing that. And I would definitely encourage anybody who's looking for an entry level job, or even, I mean, not even entry level, like you say, a stepping stone, but there's opportunity for growth within the company, right?
Yeah. I mean, the cool part is there's very few positions at In and Out that you don't have to start at the bottom. Like everyone has to be a level one. And that's, it's a level system. But I mean, our, vice president of operations was a level one at one point,
Yeah.
saying, hi, how are you to a customer. And now, he's overseeing all of our stores.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, I have a manager like underneath my belt. Can I apply and be a manager? No, you have to start all over.
It's all they only promote internally. They don't
Yeah.
take people off the
We
streets.
have a couple, like lawyers within the company that we hire outside HR, stuff like that.
Third
But they
party
have to
stuff.
do days in the store. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's Costco is like that.
Okay.
Another one of the most successful and beloved businesses in America. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like people love Costco, people love In-N-Out. Very rarely do
Mhm.
people complain about those places. And I think a lot of that has to do with the customer service. If you go into Costco and you ask a question, you're never going to get attitude.
Yeah.
Same thing with In-N-Out. If you go in there, you're always going to get a smile. You're always going to get a greeting. In fact, not too long ago, I think it was like probably 2 months ago, um, in the morning, my son was playing with my credit cards. Like I was in the bathroom and I had the door locked and I kept seeing like credit cards sliding under the door. And I was like, what the hell are you doing, man? Stop. Like, stop playing with my credit cards. And this was like right before I had to take his sister to daycare or something. So like when I got out of the bathroom, like I didn't stop to collect my things and sort my stuff back. I just like put everything in the drawer really quick and then took him and his sister and dropped her off. But I never went back and put my cards back in my wallet. Later that evening, I went and picked them up from daycare, and we decided to stop by In-N-Out. And we get to the window, and I open up my wallet, and there's nothing in there. And I'm like, it hit me. I'm like, oh no! Like my son was just playing with this. This was after I ordered, and it was 5:30 in the afternoon. So the wait, the line was ridiculous. Those lines, it's always a line. People are dying to
Yeah.
get now. So I waited in line, ordered, didn't realize this until I got to the window. And I was like, shoot, man. So I had one card in there. It was like an investment card. It's called Acorns. It's an investment app I use. And they give you a debit card that you can like transfer money over to that account and use it when needed. I had $3 in it. So I was like, I pulled up to a window, like desperately trying to transfer money over to it because I'm like, I'm so sorry, dude. My son was playing with my credit cards. I'm trying to transfer money to my one card I have right now. And let's see if it'll work. And I'm sitting there waiting. And like before he was just like, dude, no problem. Take your time. And within like 3 seconds, a manager was up at the window and they were like talking, and the manager's like, what's going on with your cards? I was like, my son took all my cards out of my wallet this morning. I have this one and I just transferred money, but it's not showing up as transferred yet. So I can try to swipe it. And they did. And like the $3 process, or like that was $3 and it was like a, $29 order. So you got 26 more dollars. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And the guy was like, dude, don't worry about it. Just come by next time you're in town. Just, come pay for it. And I was like, seriously, man. Like I felt like such a dumbass because I'm not. If you follow me on social media or if you know anything about me, I'm not one to take handouts. Like I like to work hard for everything I have in life. So I felt a little. I wouldn't say embarrassed. I get it, shit happens, but I was like a little bummed out that I was taking something from some people that I now respected in a company and a business that I respected. But it also it made me see them, like hold them even in a higher regard. I was like, I get it. If somebody's in need, I'll help them. So to have, and there was no attitude, there was no pettiness. It was like smiles and like, hey, dude, don't worry about it, man. We get it. And that was something that just stuck with me for ever since then. I even went on Yelp and wrote a review or Google reviews, which is something I don't typically do, but I was like, this kind of thing needs to be known. Like I should have posted that on my social media. It was one of those things where it's like, people don't typically do that kind of stuff, so it's definitely
that's rad.
Yeah, definitely the quality and the customer service you're going to get at places like In-N-Out, Costco, which you don't typically find elsewhere. But I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that they're starting off at entry level positions and working their way up, so they do take pride in ownership. You know what I'm saying? Like if you work at In-N-Out and you love In-N-Out, you're gonna love your day's gonna be good, and when your day's good, you're gonna treat people good. You know what I'm saying? It all just kind of it's culture building. A lot of the stuff that I tried to do at Self-Made when I was the owner of the gym, because customers come and go, money comes and goes, but having a good culture within your facility is what's going to allow it to grow and to continue to thrive. What would you say is like how does In-N-Out build that culture with 16-year-olds?
I think it just goes off of the managers that you have. It starts with the culture that I'm trying to build at my store. It starts with me.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure I lead by that same example, So every store has a different culture, a different leader that's leading it. But I know for me, like what stuck me in was my family, there. I always called my In-N-Out family. That was like, I built some of the best friendships there. I looked up to my store manager that hired me, where I'm like, dude, you're like a dad to me,
Yeah,
and I still talk to that guy today.
that's rad.
He's still a manager too for In-N-Out Burger, and I still see him. Um, so the culture that I'm trying to build is, one, a family atmosphere where it's not a job. We come in here, we have fun, and you want to be here.
Uh
And
huh.
then the next part is, the culture of hard work. You're
Yeah,
gonna work hard.
yeah. No, yeah, me and my friend were talking about that yesterday. Is like whether you're self-employed or whether you're working a 9 to 5, like no matter what, like work days are hard, So, um, something people should accept anywhere they go to work. Now, do you guys get a lot of? Because I know the pay is pretty good starting off, right?
Yeah, 16 right now.
16 now. Okay, yeah, I remember when the In-N-Out in San Marcos was first built. I was in high school, and I was at the about the age I was looking for a job. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was younger, I wouldn't say I was insecure by any means, but I didn't have like the highest self-esteem when it came to like professionalism and stuff because I was a total jackass. I was a little skate rat.
Yeah.
I didn't really set like high standards for myself. So I didn't, you know, I was the kind of guy who's like, I'm not gonna go apply to In-N-Out because they're not gonna fucking hire me. I skate and I got long hair and I freaking wear dirty clothes and stuff. So I never considered it, but I was like, man, that would be nice though, because I think they were paying 12.50 an hour, and this was in 2005, maybe. So
Hmm.
about 16 years ago, and they were paying probably, I don't know what minimum wage is right now. I haven't. It's been 14, 15 years since I've had like a normal job, but it was well above the minimum wage when I was 15 years old. It was like I think it was like $7 an hour, and they were paying almost double that. It's kind of mind
Yeah.
blowing when I realized that. But do you guys get a lot of people who go there thinking like, oh, I'm just going to go there because it's good money, or do you guys feel like you only really attract the people who you want there anyways? Like when you go through like the hiring process.
Oh, for sure, we get those people, that come in. It's like, one of the questions I ask is like, why In-N-Out? Like, oh, you guys pay good. All right, so
Yeah, yeah,
we get that, and and it's pretty easy to weed those people out that just want the money. It's like, all right, well, this job's gonna be super hard. Then
yeah.
like, you have to have the mindset of wanting to work.
Gotcha. What would you say if a kid came in there, or not even a kid, a young adult came in, and I know a lot of times interviewers will ask them like, "Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?" And what if they said like, "What would your take be on a kid who says like, well, I want to own my own restaurant, or like I want to own my own not In-N-Out because they're not franchising, but like my own burger company."
Yeah.
What would you take that as? Like, how would you kind of approach that?
I think I would just start building questions off of that, and try to get to see like his leadership mindset, or really what is behind wanting to be an owner,
Yeah.
and see like, hey, does that fit? And then if I think he was a good fit for my store, then I would try to reel him in of like, all right, these are the avenues you can go down here at In-N-Out Burger. I
Okay.
would try to suck him in right away.
Okay, right on. So knowing that in a few years down the line he may not be working for you anymore, you would still want to bring him in and invest the time in him.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like if he was that bought into wanting to be like some kind of owner in something, and the culture was right, he would get sucked in.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
So you'd think you'd make a life out of him, but even then, like you'd probably at the very least get a few good years of good hard work out of him, right?
yeah, like that would be easy to hold that guy to that standard, of like, hey, this is something you truly want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to help teach you,
Yeah.
you know,
Let's earn it.
and so
Yeah.
I can get good 3 years out of him. And, um, you know, I
Yeah.
think the part where I say sucking them in, like, do we want to keep people at In-N-Out? As
Yeah.
funny as that sounds, like some corporate business, like, all right, this person's been here too long, we pay him too much money. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
we're trying to keep them.
No, that's
Like, we
good. Of
don't want our
course.
turnover to be like, it's just a fast food job. A 16-year-old going to turn 18 at some point and leave to go get a different job. It's like, no, we're trying to keep you guys here 35 plus years.
No, yeah, that for sure. That's amazing, and I imagine a lot of people probably go there as an entry level job, and then they do get sucked in. They're like, "Oh my god, I love this place. I love the family. I love the culture. I love the pay." It's probably a good opportunity for them.
Yeah, I
But
mean, dude, it worked for me. Like, I didn't see myself, flipping burgers for the rest of my life.
yeah,
Like, I wanted to, go to college and become a firefighter.
yeah,
And I was just like, once I got to um, open up a store
yeah,
as an associate, I was like, dude, this is rad. Like, my manager drives cool cars. He makes
yeah,
good money. I can pick my own schedule as a store manager and have like days off during the week. Like, or I can work night shifts and have a full day. to do that. I'm like, this is sick, you know?
Yeah. So it's really like owning your own business.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Obviously
man.
I have some structure, like scheduling wise,
Of
that it's
course.
like, man, I don't have any say in that, you know? I
Yeah.
can't take every weekend off. I get 2 weekends off, but, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And unless you're the one taking the risk and taking on that liability of being the sole owner or being the one at the very top, obviously you're going to
Hmm.
have some sort of, um, you know, regulations or whatnot, some policies that you have to abide by. Like even being the owner of Self-Made, it was very, Miguel's very hands off. He does let you run your business, but there are still certain things that you just can't do that you could do if it was your own business, such as, selling your own apparel. Like I couldn't put
Hmm.
our t-shirts up. I couldn't market our t-shirts in the gym at all just because it wasn't the Self-Made brand. And that's kind of, you know, counterproductive to the growth of Self-Made. So very awesome owning your own business. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that about still wanting to take people on, even though they verbalize that they may not want to be there a few years down the line, because that was always kind of my mindset with Self-Made. Uh, that gym relies on trainers to stay there and paying rent in order for the gym doors to stay open. In fact, that's
Hmm.
98% of the income or the revenue that the gym generates is from trainers paying rent to run their business. And they're all paying a flat rate. It's not like the more successful trainers are paying more and the trainers who are there least are paying less. It's just a flat rate. So you lose one trainer and it's a big deal. So it can be easy to kind of have that scarcity of mindset of like, oh no, like we only want this, or we're gonna, we only want the people who are only dedicated to us, because you don't want to lose people and you don't want them to use you as like a stepping stone. But I always kind of looked at things differently, and that's how a lot of corporate gyms are. If you go to a 24-hour fitness and you're like, hey, where, if they ask you where do you see yourself in 3 years, and you're like, well, I want to own my own gym. I'm like, all right, this may not be the place for you. We want people who want to grow within the business, and we want people who, whatever, that's probably going to look bad on in your interview. I always told people is like, look, if you want to start your own business, own your own gym one day, and you want to do that in 5 years, I'll make it a personal goal to help you get there in 3, because I'll look at
Yeah.
that as a personal accomplishment on my end. And like you said, I knew if people were coming in there and they're like, hey, I want to train here, but I want to own my own gym one day. I knew that those were going to be the ones who had the right mindset. I knew that they were going to be the one. Well, sometimes a lot of people want to own a gym, and it's
Yeah.
not always the brightest or the hardest workers either who want to own a gym. But those who did have that business mindset, I knew that they were going to be a good addition to our team, and they were going to bring some sort of value. And I think it's about having an abundance mindset. Like you said, you would get 3 good years out of the guy, and then it's not going to make or break you if he leaves 3 years later. Like you're not going to be hurting because you have the mindset of abundance. You know that you're going to
Hmm.
be able to bring in people with that same mindset and who are going to contribute to the culture and whatnot, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing too, like word of mouth, like that person's going to have a friend that's going to look for something like, here, go apply here, man. Like
Yeah.
it worked for me. Let's try it out. And
It,
someone's going to say the same thing about being a trainer. Like, hey, I got a lot of success under this area, like
yes.
this is where I learned a lot.
Yeah. They're gonna influence, and they're gonna
Hmm.
bring like-minded individuals to you. For sure, man. I love that part about running a business. Um, so 16-year-old comes into you, or 18-year-old, whatever, to a young man or young woman. What are some things that you look for when hiring somebody at that age?
Yeah. I mean, do personal example is a big one for me.
What's that?
Like one personal example
Okay.
is definitely a big one. I look to see how they carry themselves. Are you picking the right time to come in and talk to someone? Are you, you see a long line in the drive-through, a long line on the counter, and you're like, "Hey, you're completely busy. Are you hiring?" It's like, hey, um, so that right there, like time is a different, approach. Like, all right, do you think this is the best time?
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I do let, like, hey, why don't you come in for an interview at this time? When I can sit down and talk, and I ask, like, I'll coach them up on that piece, and start talking. And that'll be something we'll bring up. Like, hey, do you think the time that you came in and applied, do you think that was a good time? So I'm trying to teach them that way. If I don't hire them, they can go to another business and do, something a little bit better.
Yeah. So you're still kind of
Um,
setting them up for success.
exactly.
Hell yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for really is like personal example, hard work. Do you have any leadership stuff that you've done? I know sometimes I get that kid that's never had a job, and they maybe they're an athlete, so they're a leader within being an athlete. So I look for stuff like that. But then I also have the kids that never played a sport, never had a job, and just play video games.
Yeah,
So that's a little bit harder to pull from. But
of
it's
course.
just looking to see really, what do I get out of them? Some of the quietest people I interview are some of my best workers now.
Oh, for
Where I'm
sure.
like, maybe I should take a little bit of a risk on this one,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it's gonna be hard because it's a high paced environment, but you're kind of quiet, and all of a sudden it's like this person's like, you're like my model associate.
Yeah. No, I've seen that plenty of times myself. Um, what are your takes on like somebody who's coming to you for, I wouldn't say personal gain so much, but they're more in it for like their own personal growth, as opposed to somebody who is like all team in and out. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? Like they're there to help the business. Like what's your approach on that, or how do you view that?
I just dig deep really on like what do they mean by just about them,
Yeah.
you know? Just because it is a team atmosphere, you have to be
Uh-huh.
able to help each other out, and so those ones are hard. Like I don't want someone that's just gonna come in and it's like, hey, it's only for me and that's it. I'm not gonna help my other people out,
Yeah.
because the job gets hard.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not so much like referring to they wouldn't be able to work as a team, or they're not willing to work as a team, but their main goal is, like I said, the guy who wants to own the burger chain, like their main goal is personal growth, as to their main goal being contributing to
To in
to
and
In and
out.
Out. Is that something you kind of ask about, or are you more so focused on the mindset and what they're going to uh, contribute regardless of where they're looking to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking more of like them. Even if it's like you say, that person that wants to own their own burger place, like
Yeah.
um, those are things that like we could build off of. You don't have to be the biggest fan of In and
Yeah.
Out.
Okay. Right
Um,
on.
as long as you're there to take care of the customer.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is, are you going to give the customer everything they came for?
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Or
because it is all customer base. I think that's the biggest part of our job. Is taking care of the customer at the highest level.
Yeah, well, that's what works, and that's what keeps people coming back. Um, but that was a like a struggle for me, I guess, when I was bringing on trainers, is like the ones who were about self-made, who would wear the apparel, who
hmm
would talk about it, and they were the ones who seemed to do better as trainers because people wanted to be part of that culture and they wanted to be part of the environment, as opposed to the ones who were kind of just there to run their own business and do their own thing exclusively. Not to say that they wouldn't do well, but I always saw that like people who were about self-made tended to
hmm
kind of attract people a little bit better.
Yeah, you're bought into the culture.
Exactly, you're bought in, and that's something
hmm
that self-made's leadership promoted all the time. Is like, as the franchise owner, you have to be bought in, and then you have to teach your trainers to be bought in. I'm assuming that's something you work on with whether they come in there being team in and out or not. You probably try to not like get them to love it, but get them to see why, being to love the brand, I guess, right?
Yeah, if you don't love In and Out or you
It's
don't
gonna be
love the
hard.
brand, dude, it's hard, man. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna hate your life coming in there.
yeah, because it is fast
Yeah,
paced, and well, I think that goes to, you can say that about any job in life, is like if you don't love it to some extent, it's gonna be a hard time.
yeah. But this isn't like, I would say In and Out's a hard one because you can't just like come in and like, clock in and start working, just like go through the motions. It's like you got to be a fan
Yeah,
of, like serving a good burger, taking care of the customer, and like really be bought into that.
yeah, for sure. I know you mentioned going to In and Out University. Where is that, by the way? Is that like somewhere local, or did you have to go travel for that?
It's in Baldwin Park, so
Where's
up
that
in
at?
LA.
Okay, so not too far.
Yeah,
Was that like
yeah, it's only
a
a couple hours
weekend
from
thing,
here.
or like a week long thing?
So when you become a manager, our entry level would be a fourth manager, and they go for a whole month for Monday through Friday.
Oh wow, okay. So did you drive
Yeah,
up there every day, or would you stay there for a week at a time? Like,
no, they put you in a hotel.
oh nice. So there's definitely
Yeah,
a big it's a big commitment to become a manager right out the gate.
yeah. So you go there, you stay there in a hotel, and you attend class every day, a full 8 hour day in class. With all the workshops, and then when you get promoted out of a fourth manager, you go to a third, and then you go for um, 3 or 2 weeks, and
Okay.
then When you get promoted to assistant managers 1 week, and then store managers, we always have classes to go to.
Okay.
So they almost have it now. It's like they send out like a book or an email with like a bunch of different classes on things you want to take, and you sign up. And then I just go like for a day or maybe 2 days at a time.
Wow. Never knew so much went into being a manager at In-N-Out. That's rad.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, there's just like a bunch of classes. Like I know I had to take, from assistant manager, store manager, I had to take like what would be manager prep to prep me to be a store manager, and then like an introduction to management.
Uh,
Where I was up there at the university a lot.
okay. Now you
Yeah, and
said,
it's cool.
yeah, it's pretty fun
Yeah,
stuff.
it's the only time I liked school. I
Right on.
hated school
Well,
growing up, but man, I'll go to In and Out University any day.
yeah, I mean, well, if you love the job and you love the culture, obviously you're going to like learning about it a little bit more,
Hmm.
A lot of people going to college nowadays studying something that I don't think they genuinely care about. They like, some people looking to be in the medical field because of the pay as opposed to because they love humans and they love taking care of people,
Yeah.
can make things a lot more challenging. So you said 12 years you've been with In-N-Out
Hmm.
and you're a store manager now. What's the opportunity for growth from where you're at right now? Like, can you be like a regional manager or even like like where can you go from here?
Yeah. So there's another step I could take of being like an operational skills manager. So people that are ready to go into management, they actually have to go to another store and be watched by this manager, and it's a pass or fail.
Okay.
So they take 4 days, and it's like, hey, you're what we call our week. You're gonna go on your week. Um, we're gonna watch you. If the manager passes you off, then you can go to now classes at the university.
Gotcha.
So that's my next move right now that I'm trying to get is become OSM. And then
Okay.
the next would be divisional manager.
Okay.
So divisional manager oversees 8 stores in the area, um, and they kind of just pop into there. That one's a little bit more. You're hands off now as far as like what I do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but you're into a lot of different avenues with a lot more people.
Mhm.
And then the growth after that would be regional manager.
Okay. So there's definitely like there is a lot of upside to staying as an In-N-Out employee for a long time. Because I mean,
Yes.
you're at 12 years right now and you're a store manager, which sounds to be pretty high up there. Um, you can work at a there's a lot of careers. I think it's one thing I can't stand about our nation's culture or like our society and how we view like college and the importance behind that is that like the best route to take is getting a 4-year degree after high school and then going into a
Hmm.
job. And um, I just think that there's so much more opportunity out there for people who don't necessarily want to go to school, especially like the public school system. I've tried it.
Yeah.
I've dropped out like 5 times now out of college. And let me tell you, it's not because I'm stupid. I'm not going to say I'm the smartest guy, but it's not because I'm stupid or I couldn't hack it. It was just because like my interest levels. I'm a very passionate person. So
Hmm.
if I'm not like loving what I'm doing, I'm just gonna hate it and be like, I'm done. Like I don't need this in my life. But I think
Yeah.
we have this like skewed perception of what the American dream is or like what our lives should look like. And I know a lot of that pressure comes from our parents, pressure comes from society, pressure comes from high school. Like when you're in high school, you kind of feel like a bum if you're not going to college right after. Um,
Hmm.
but you can easily get a 4-year degree and get a job and make $48,000 for the rest of your life and never really amount to anything.
Yeah.
Whereas, you've been there for 12 years. Let's say you're there for another 12 years, and who knows, maybe you're the divisional manager or like the highest that you can get without being the owner. That's
Hmm.
24 years out of your life. Like you're still young. You're what if you 42 years old if if
Yeah.
you started at 18, if you started at 16, even younger, like still in your 30s. And I mean, probably making good money really good money at that point. Um, that's a huge opportunity, in my opinion. It's probably why people love working at In-N-Out so much, dude. Because I dated a girl in the past who worked at In-N-Out. Like, I've never met employees who love their job as much as In-N-Out
Yeah.
employees. Like they
Yeah.
fucking love it. um,
Yeah. We're sucked into the cult.
yeah. Hey, dude, whatever works, man. Like I said, the customers love it too, though. So it's definitely working. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
let me.
dude, the following with the customers is crazy, dude. Like we have people that eat there once a day, once a week, only at that store.
Yeah.
I have a couple people that come just for one of my associates. He's been there um, for 18 years, and he's an older gentleman.
Yeah.
And he works certain days out of the week, outside of his full time job, and they only come to see this guy.
Yeah.
He has his own fans. It's cool.
Yeah.
Because when I first got this store, I had to take time to go spend time with them because he's like, "Hey, I want you to go meet this person." This, I'm like, "Dude, I can't remember all this." Like, and now I finally know who they are. Where I could say hi if they're off. And I walk out and like, "Hey, Billy's not working today."
Yeah.
But I got this person. It's just building friendships within people that come in. Is cool. We give out like number one customer T-shirts to our returning customers.
Yeah.
And some of them rock it every time they come in.
Uh-huh. That's rad.
Mm.
Um, so it's kind of like you have employees building their own culture within
Yeah.
In-N-Out. That's rad. I saw a lot of that at Self-Made too. It's but probably still really bought into In-N-Out too. Like they're using In-N-Out to leverage that. I'm sure they're not just doing their own
Hmm.
thing. Like they're probably like, you know, they probably are a team player, but they're reaching people in another way.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I also notice something that I know my wife is very fond of is the fact that I think In-N-Out was like really involved with like human trafficking and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So Slave to Nothing
It's
is
what?
it's called Slave to Nothing is our foundation that Lindsay, our owner, started.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's two parts to Slave to Nothing. There's human trafficking, and then there's substance abuse.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. Substance abuse they're on the back. It says it on the bag, right?
yeah. Yeah. So we just finished Substance Abuse Month um, with In-N-Out, but the Slave to Nothing with the human trafficking was something that she wanted to bring awareness within our community to people that no one knows anything about.
Yeah.
And so she's just like, man, this is like something that is right in front of us every single day, and people see it, but they don't know it.
Yeah.
And so like her mission really was like, hey, I have these stores with people working. I can post things about it. I can, you know, um, help individuals out through this. And dude, it's growing a lot. Like we have a team that's just for this.
Yeah. Wow. So all of that, I mean, the empire, the university, the slave to nothing, all of that based on selling 3 menu items at a
Yeah.
fast food restaurant. That's insane to me. That's what I was saying like when we first started talking, that's what intrigues me so much about you guys is that it's so simple. It's so
Hmm.
affordable. Um, I've seen the lines, so I know that the revenue's coming through, but it's just it's like you guys have that it factor, and I I would personally believe that it all 100% comes down to the culture
Yeah.
that the vision that the owner had. They pass that vision on to the managers and the store managers, and you guys are bought in. You pass it down to the employees, and that's what's keeping people coming back.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it right now was like the true test of like fans out there with COVID, like
Yeah.
obviously we slowed down a lot in sales through that time,
Did you
but
guys?
we never, yeah, I mean, just because there were so many different things we had to, jump through all these hoops to, only go through drive through, no seating inside. We went to a point where we didn't even let anyone come into our dining room.
Yeah.
It was strictly just business. And I went from running, 23 people at a time down to 11 people, you
So you
know,
did you guys have to let people off?
dude, I hired through it.
You hired through it.
I
So I
hired through it.
so what do you mean you were managing less people then?
Um, on staff at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't tell anyone like, "Hey, we don't have the business, we have to let you go." The people that like maybe couldn't do the job yet, like a newer associate that didn't know how to like take an order by themselves yet, they were a little bit, on the harder side. They were allowed to stay home during this time, and we paid them to stay home.
Wow. Did you guys pay them
Yeah, so
full pay to
80% of what they were averaging.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean,
Good
dude, there's people that weren't working at all, and they were still getting a paycheck.
good for you guys, man.
Yeah.
That's
So I mean,
amazing. I
taking
w
care of our people for sure.
Yeah, the gym grew through COVID as well. Um, in fact, I think that's when you started coming, right?
Yep. Yeah.
For anybody listening, Shane's actually he hit me up about training one time, and I sent him to a good friend of mine, Vince, a former Marine, and a combat athlete, and I think that speaks for itself. He's a pretty tough dude.
Yeah.
But you've been eating that up, man. Been staying consistent with him for like what, a year now?
Yeah, dude, almost a year. And it
Almost a
was
year.
through COVID basically where I was like going to a corporate gym and it kept shutting down. I finally told my wife, dude, I'm sick of this like
Yeah,
shutting down. She's like, well, you've been talking about hiring a trainer, like go do it. And that's when I
now's the
reached out to
time.
you, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
yeah.
I remember that actually. I think it was shortly after I posted the video about us staying open, and you hit me up.
Mhm.
And you're like, I'm ready to get in there now, man. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
And I wanted to help, like support you guys too. And I told my wife, I'm like, dude, there's nothing more than like supporting someone else that's going through a struggle with like, hey, how do we stay open,
yeah. Oh, for sure, man, for sure. That was definitely appreciated, and there was a lot of people like you who were about that, because like I said, we actually ended up growing through COVID, um, which is really weird because I have friends that own businesses of all different kinds. I have a friend who owns a pizza store in Escondido, and from the restaurant's point of view, it was like very looked down upon, I guess, to stay open. People would
Hmm.
get upset about restaurants for staying open, whereas for the gym, it was like 98% of our customers were so relieved. Plus, we gained like another 40% because all the other gyms that closed down, there are guys who were like, I don't care about COVID. Like, I need to stay in shape. We're coming to us. Um, did it, did it ever, how did that work with you guys? Did your owner say, like, hey, you guys have to abide by this? Or did they kind of leave it up to you guys to make that decision for
About like
closing,
how we're going to operate.
yeah, how you were going to operate through COVID?
They basically told us, hey, this is how you have to operate.
Okay. So that they
Yeah, some
wanted
of
the
the
whole
voice
line.
was heard. Yeah, like right when COVID hit, it was like super scary for everyone.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know what was happening. We were watching TV, seeing people drop. We're
The
like, dude, this
unknown.
is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we shut down the dining room. Because
Uh,
we like, I know me as store manager, I was like, well, I want to make sure my people are safe. Like if they're
for
coming in
sure.
contact and this is as deadly as everyone says it is, like I don't want these people in my dining room that like are now given to someone, now it's spreading through us.
For
So I'm like,
sure.
let's minimize that and just like go just through the window.
Yeah.
And then we realized, we're good. Like, let's open up our doors a little bit, like to let people walk in at least. Because we were
Yeah.
getting people that like don't have any way of like driving, and to turn away someone is like, dude, you rode a bike, like we'll take care of you outside of here, dude. Like, come on,
Yeah. Or at least have
this is
some sort of
ridiculous.
ordering system for them to like order through a little intercom or something.
Yeah, or like a
Got it.
semi truck driver, that's like, well, dude, you want me to pull through your drive through? I'm like, well, it's impossible. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'll take
You,
your order right here outside this door.
you've had semis pull up?
Yeah, and
Dude,
that's
that's
when I was
rad.
like, I'm not gonna turn people away. Like
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, that was the hard part. Is having to do things someone else's way for sure.
yeah. And like I said earlier, that's kind of one of the downsides to not actually being the owner. But there's a lot of give and take. So the owners don't always make a whole lot more money than the people right below them. In fact, sometimes
Hmm.
like the CEOs and the managers do make more than the owners, but the owners are always the ones who are solely responsible for things. So it's not a bad position to be in. Like you
Yeah,
have a lot of pull, you have a lot of say, a lot of flexibility. You're probably making great income. Like you're probably living a great life for yourself and for your family, but you don't have like you're probably not losing a lot of sleep over what's going on behind closed doors and whatnot.
exactly.
Or maybe you are. I mean, you do take pride in ownership, and you've kind of made that really clear. So maybe you do kind of feel some of that as well. But like I said, it's all give and take, really.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy how COVID. I know I talked to some people. COVID hurt them, and some of it like it helped them grow. And I know for me personally, like my own store's growth, it grew a lot.
Yeah, I think
Which is
that's.
wild.
I think that really comes down to the individual, and then if you are running a business, the culture you create. Because
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that our circumstances, they are what they are, and obviously they're going to make things either a lot harder or a lot easier for us, and we don't necessarily like create the circumstances, but we do definitely influence them for ourselves. um, what I'm saying? Like if you're in a bad spot, there's, in my opinion, there's a good chance that your decisions leading up to that point kind of made that. So I think that depending on how people did through COVID, good, bad, or stayed about the same, really came down to just the mindset that they had. What they were willing to go through. Are these people who have overcome adversity in their life before? People who know how to
Yeah.
pivot. Because for us, it hit us so hard. Like our first, when the COVID initially shut down, like we were like, okay, we're gonna do our part, and we're going to close down for 2 weeks like everybody else. We're not special. And then it turned into 5 weeks. And after 5 weeks, I was like, fuck this, dude. Like, we're opening
Yeah.
back up. And we opened up May 1st, like um, on the down low, we'd open up the back door and have people come in the back and bring their clients in. And, but it was financially, it was killing us because, our landlord didn't help us out at all. Like, she still expected full rent. Our bills
Yeah.
didn't change. They were allowing us to defer our payments, but we're like, look, we're not deferring our customers' payments. This is just setting us back like hugely. None of the PPP stuff was coming through for small businesses. So, um, definitely, it wasn't just like an easy situation for anybody. Like, oh yeah, let's just close down, and they're going to be, giving us support checks while we close down so we can do it for everybody's health. No, it was like, shut down your business and then fucking hopefully you get unemployment or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of our trainers, they're all independent contractors. Not all of them pay themselves through payroll or have like had the proof that they had been making a certain amount for a certain amount of time. So most of them
Hmm.
were getting denied unemployment anyways. And then once they
Yeah.
did get unemployment, they were making like $130 a week for the contractor unemployment. So
Yeah.
it was a huge mess for us. But we just took it day by day and we pivoted. And then eventually we, kind of said, fuck the system. Like, we're doing what we got to do.
Yeah.
It's either,
And I think that was the cool part is Miguel supported that too with you guys, like
yeah.
it wasn't like he's like, no, you can't open it. You're like, no, we are.
Oh, he was a hard charger with that, man. If you follow him
Yeah.
on Instagram, he was trying to lead a revolution through that.
Yeah.
He was not about it, but behind the scenes, he was very um, cool about it. He was like, "Hey, look, this is what we're doing in Temecula." He's like, "I know it's different for each location depending on what city you're in, what state you're in. So I'm not going to tell you guys you have to do this or do that. This is what we're doing based on this information that our legal team, blah blah blah, whatever." And we'll support you one way or the other. We just want to all get through this together. So he was very supportive of kind of like the whole mask situation, like in the gym. Like,
Yeah.
I was never going to make people wear masks. I don't think it's ever my fucking uh, duty in life to tell a grown adult what they can or can't do.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to come to the
Especially when
gym,
they're coming to you for to give money to you.
exactly. And like, people would
You
get
know?
mad at me, dude. People are like, how are you not enforcing masks? I'm like, I tell them that they can wear them if they want. Like, I'm not going to force them. They're like, well, people can get sick. I'm like, hey, if every adult's coming in here and they're like willingly choosing not to, I didn't have a rule that said you can't wear masks. I
Hmm.
just left it up to them and what they felt comfortable doing. And everybody, adults, did what adults did. But it was crazy, man. So May 1st last year was when we opened. And when
Hmm.
I sold the gym like March 1st, March 2nd or something like that. I don't remember the exact date. So almost an entire year of my last whole year of owning that gym was through COVID. And um, throughout that year, we were open fully for about 6 months of that. And I think we had like a total of 6 trainers get contracted with COVID. And then a few of those trainers were like, hey, yeah, some of my clients got it too. So I want to say at most 15 people from the entire gym had gotten confirmed COVID. And
Yeah.
then when they did get COVID, they would hit me up and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm quarantining for the next 2 weeks. I got it. You may want to let anybody else know who was around me. So I'd send out a group chat, be like, hey, just so you guys know, and I wouldn't drop any names. Like, I don't think I was allowed to do that through occupational health or whatever. But I just be like, we got a trainer, a couple clients get COVID. So if you feel like you need to get checked, go get checked. If you feel like you need to get quarantined, go get quarantined. If you want to let your clients know, do the responsible thing. Hey, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you guys you can't come in. I'm not going to tell you this or that. Just be adults. And that's the
Yeah.
way it went. And then people would go get checked, but hit me up like, hey, I got COVID. Like, okay, cool. Hey guys, we got another guy got COVID or another trainer or whatever. And that was it, man. That was where it ended. Like, no
Yeah.
outbreaks, no fucking uh no fucking chaos, like nothing going on other than like, hey, trainer had to stay home sick. And then they
Yeah.
told me and I told everybody else. It's like that's what happens when you allow people to be responsible.
Exactly.
Because I could have had trainers who were like, no, I need to make the money, and they'd sit out. They wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't sit out for 2 weeks. They'd just kind of push it under the rug. But they didn't. And part of that was because I was going to take care of them. I'm like, okay, well, don't worry about paying rent this month. Like, take care of you and your family, whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but it was like, people were getting mad at me for the entire year. But it's like, look, I got contractors that need to feed their families. Like, you do
Yeah.
you, I'll do me. I'm not going to force you guys to come in there. But I do know for the restaurant industry, it was a lot different. you guys had a lot more
Yeah.
pressure on you, and especially for a restaurant like In and Out, a lot more foot traffic than our gym had. Because we weren't a big corporate public gym where 500 people were coming in and out every day. We probably had like 150 people, and I mean,
Yeah.
you train there every day. You see how not congested it is.
Yeah.
So
If
different.
you're willing to wake up early, dude, there's not many people in there.
I know you're always in there at what 4:30, 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good
I
stuff,
mean,
man.
yeah. So like with the restaurant business, dude, it's hard, the loops you have to hop through, and, something's changing or was changing during COVID super fast, on things you could do and what we weren't going to do anymore. And now we're coming out of that end of like, we're changing back to like, hey, this is okay now.
Yeah,
Um, so it's definitely hard for sure.
yeah. What would you say was the hardest part about COVID and as an In and Out manager? Like, what was the biggest
I think
challenge
it
you
was,
faced this last year?
I would say like dealing with, you know, um, like you say, like exclusions, people potentially saying they have it.
Yeah,
And it's just, if you said like, hey, might have some symptoms, you're out for 14 days, and that's out
yeah,
of my control.
yeah.
It's all of a sudden, it's like, I'm getting a phone call like, hey, we have this person that was by someone that had it, and now this person, this person's out because I'm
Contact
like, whew,
tracing.
dude, this
Yeah,
is like 6 people, man.
yeah,
And we had a team just for that, where they're pulling video and watching and counting how many minutes this person's next to this person. It's like, so adjusting to like only one person on a break at a time, taking a temperature when someone walks in, there's just a bunch of different things. I'm like, man, this is challenging. My job's different.
yeah. You had to change up your entire operations and your entire routine, pretty much, huh?
Yeah. And that happened like sometimes overnight, it's like, hey, by the way, this is happening. It's like, oh man, like, all right, we got to adjust here. And the good ones figured it out quick.
Yeah. Did you ever got any people who would like fake COVID so they could not work, but or I mean, obviously you're not really gonna know for sure, but did you ever have like suspicions where somebody's like, "Hey, I got COVID," and you're like, "Okay," but they were just getting paid to time off?
They just wanted that paycheck,
Yeah.
I did have one person that I pretty much caught,
Okay.
and he was kind of like admitted it, and I was just like, but and this person, yeah, I couldn't stand, I was just like,
Yeah.
man, you're not a good worker, like
Yeah.
one, I didn't mind him sitting at home, but it was eating me up more that like, dude, we're paying this guy to sit at home,
Yeah.
and he's taking advantage of the system. So I was just like, more like, dude, you're not in it for like taking care of yourself or your family, you
Yeah.
know? So that
Yeah.
was like eating me up more. I was just like, man,
Just
no,
it doesn't work for you anymore, does he?
no, he doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
there's always some that slide through the cracks, but I feel like they always tend to weed themselves out in some
Yeah.
way or another.
You stick out like a sore thumb, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, not gonna fit in. Probably not gonna enjoy it as much either. If like you're the black sheep and everybody else is happy to be there and like working hard, and you're the one who's kind of like, because I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, people
Yep.
love that like that human interaction stuff. So if you have like a negative mindset and you're trying to like vent or complain to your coworkers, and they're probably like, dude, like chill out, or cheer up or whatever, probably
Mhm.
not gonna be the right place for them anyways.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I always tell people when I hire them or they transfer to my store, I'm always like, hey, something you get from me is I'm going to shoot you super straight. I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. And if you don't like it, it's going to be a hard job for you, Like,
Yeah,
and I've had people, where like I did managers transfer in, like, dude, this is kind of cool. Like, this person calls out a lot and you like confront them a lot. I'm like, well, yeah, dude, like, I'm not going to have someone that just like wants to take advantage of the system, and it's not going to be a job for you. I don't want you here.
yeah,
Like your team, you let your team down every day that you call in when you're not really sick because you want to be at the beach with your friends.
yeah,
So I'm going to teach you like, hey, be responsible. Like
yeah,
trust me, I would love to be at the beach with my kids.
yeah.
But you don't see me calling out for it.
Yeah, it's accountability. I think that's
Yeah.
probably one of the um, hardest but most beneficial aspects of being in a leadership position is the accountability. Is you set rules, you set policies, or like you set a standard. You create the
Hmm.
culture, and those who are kind of not really complying or not, you know, staying true to the vision or whatever. It's like you got to do something, right? You got to call them out. You got to make corrections. You got to be the bad guy.
Yeah. And
And
the hardest part too is like when you have someone that's really great,
yeah,
and they mess up and it's like, dude, I got to hold someone that's really great accountable.
you got to hold them to the same standard. Otherwise, other
Exactly.
people will see that and they're gonna think you're playing favorites or whatnot. Which,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing favorites. And a lot of there's so many things that like being a manager or being a business owner that you understand that people from the outside looking in don't quite understand.
Hmm.
Favorites being one of them, because like I'm sure you could probably share the sentiment with me a little bit, but when you play favorites as a business owner, you're not just like, oh, I like this guy because he goes to the gym, so I'm going to hook him up. Usually, it's the people who get favored are the ones who provide the most value. So it's like your
Exactly.
hardest workers are going to get favored. But that's not just because you grew up with them or because they're your cousin. It's usually because um, they provide the most for you. They make your job a little bit easier, whereas the people who are getting less favorable treatment are probably the ones making your job a little bit harder and more
Yeah.
stressful, right?
Yeah. I get people like, oh, do you play favorites? I'm like, you're right,
They
I do. Like, I'll admit it,
yeah,
you know,
but it's
but
earned, right?
yeah. But I was like, I want you to like start naming off who you think my favorites are, because I know my favorites that I have are hard workers. Like,
Yeah,
they come in here, they show up on time.
yeah,
I don't have to babysit them,
yeah.
you know?
If
When I need help, I call them and they're like, yeah, I got you, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, that's my philosophy, dude, is if you're working for me in one way or another and you're making my job harder, you're not going to get any favorable treatment. If you're making my job
Yeah.
easier, you may get favorable treatment. Like when an opportunity comes up for a free training class course or something,
Hmm.
it's like who are the ones who fucking made my job easier, you know? And then you get the people who aren't the ones making your job easier complaining about that. They're like, oh, this is just a popularity contest, or you're just hooking them up. And it's like, you know what? I am hooking them up because they
Yeah.
hook me up every single day that they walk in the door, and they take out the trash and they greet customers and they make this place freaking better for all of us. That's why they're
Hmm.
getting hooked up, you know? I think that's something that a lot of people that are simply employees or not even employees and they just want to judge business owners or managers or people who have like a position of power or leadership, and think that we're just playing favorites. It's like, look,
Yeah.
trust me, you know, uh, if my cousin was a shithead, he's not working for my business just because he's my cousin.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like if my
Exactly.
cousin is working directly under me, people can look at him and be like, oh, he's just doing that because he's your cousin. He's like, yeah, he is my cousin. 99% of jobs are usually internal, whether it's making your way through the ranks or like a referral. So obviously it's internal, but he also earned it because I know he's got the work ethic. I know he's not going to come here and make my life harder. Because if he was, I wouldn't give a fuck if he was my cousin. He wouldn't be
Yeah.
here, you know. Um,
Yeah. And
so
fire him.
exactly, he would have never made it there in the first place. So I think
Yeah.
it's something a lot of people don't understand, and it's good to have, you know, like a corporate manager, I guess is what you would call yourself. You're
Yeah.
in and out to corporation, you know, you're a manager of like a chain, um, and you can kind of shed some light on that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's a hard part of being a manager, you know, is
Yeah.
dealing with certain,
Yep.
that piece of the job of like, people looking at favorites is a hard part, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's like we always go back to the culture, and
Yep.
it's easy to like hear, I'll sell you on why this person's good.
Yeah.
It's like they start like swallowing that back, like, oh, I shouldn't have said anything, because
Yeah.
and now we have different hours. The
Yeah.
earliest person that comes in is 5 a.m. and the last person that leaves is 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's like if that person's complaining and they're not working some of these hard hours and that person is, I'm like, look, dude, like this person works 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. for me. They
Yeah.
work 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah. That's a I think an important thing for a leader to do is kind of suppress the ego, and instead of being like
Hmm.
getting butthurt that they're, you know, complaining about it, is just like sitting down and explaining to them, be like, hey, look, man, um, it's really nothing personal. I don't just like him better than you because of his skin color or because of, you know, his hobbies. But you have to
Yeah.
understand is that he's making my job easier, and to be honest with you, you kind of make it harder at times. You know, I don't think you're a bad person. I'm not saying you're a piece of shit, but
Hmm.
that's the reality. And if you want to fix that and you want to like go in the right direction, I'm here to help you. You know, like if you can like let your ego aside and kind of treat them like kids, you know, like your kids. If you're just telling them no, if you're just yelling at them and you're not really like explaining to them why they're doing something wrong or how they can fix it, they're not really going to see like the upside to it. They're just going to resent you, you know. So I think
Yeah.
as a manager or as a person, a leader, being able to be transparent with them and communicate those things to them is very important. Takes a little patience because you're a busy man and you
Yeah.
probably got a lot of people coming to you for a lot of different things. I understand that life. Um,
Yeah.
but it's good. And then the whole accountability aspect. like I said, it's one of the hardest things to do as a leader, especially when it's somebody that is a star performer and you kind of got to come down on them. But it does
Hmm.
create for a better culture in the long run. Without that
Definitely.
accountability, people tend to do what they want, and I'm sure you've seen that before too. I'm sure you've probably seen many different. You've learned through experience.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I think the structure piece is a big one.
yeah,
People thrive on structure as
yeah.
much as some people are like, "Oh, I don't like structure." It's like, you do.
I hate it, but I need it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's like when you go on vacation and you get off your routine and you don't work out while you're on vacation. It's almost like you regret it sometimes. You're like, "Fuck, I wish I wasn't even here in the Bahamas," because
Yeah.
it's taking you out of your daily routine. Like as a kid, no big deal. I wanted to stay on vacation my entire life. As an adult, I go on vacation. If I'm there for more than like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, okay, I need to get home because of
Yeah.
that. Like I need to get back to my routine, that structure of what I do on a daily basis. Like I we do thrive off that.
Yeah. It's almost like when you do go on vacation, you you go so far out of your routine sometimes that you're more tired coming back because it's like, you know, it's
It's,
not normal.
it's stressful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's like almost where like you have to kind of stick to something that's like a little bit normal. You are on vacation.
yeah. No, for
I feel
sure.
that. And it's good, obviously, sometimes hey, like, let's unplug for like a day. Like sometimes catches up, like, it's cool.
Yeah,
We need it.
a day, not a week.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
gets hard at that point. Um,
Yeah.
cool, man. But hey, I have one last question for you in regards to In and Out. Uh, where did Animal Style come from? What is that all about?
Yeah. So animal style, yeah, I forget the exact year, but I know it happened at Store One in Baldwin Park. It started like employees used to make their own burger, like kind of how we want to make it.
Uh-huh.
And just like at every store Friday night gets crazy with all the kids from high school, coming and eat after football and stuff like that. Well, these kids would always hang out in the dirt parking lot with their cars and like acting crazy. And this guy came up and was talking about the kids calling them animals, like there's the animals out here, all this stuff. And saw this guy making this burger. He's like, can't want that. And so they over time adopted it into, all right, we'll call it animal style.
That's rad. So it
Yeah,
actually has some meaning behind it.
yeah. What's funny is like animal style came later, and it's like kind of what we're known for, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I
But
love it, man. I love it. Like everything I do
yeah,
with Animal Style. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, man, awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to, we can wrap it up here. I appreciate you taking the time to shed some light on In and Out. I think it sounds like a fantastic job opportunity for anybody, really. Anybody who, wants to service people and wants to be in the food industry and have that potential growth, people with the right mindset who know that if they work hard and they take ownership, that they can grow into good positions. So, who knows, maybe somebody listening to this will figure, hey, like that might be a good opportunity for me. And, maybe you shed some light on that and it impacted some of our listeners. But I also want to say thank you for like being that type of leader that does take the ownership, even though, you may not be the owner, but also like trying to lead our younger generation and teach them proper mindset, because
yeah, super important.
it is it 100%. And in our culture, our pop culture, it's a lot of that is, I wouldn't say discouraged, but quite the opposite is encouraged. And it's in my opinion, it's really hard to find people with like that ownership mentality and those who take accountability and um, encourage accountability. So thank you for being in what I would consider a good contributor to our society here in the area. But yeah, man, hopefully the listeners enjoyed this. Um, I wish you all the best of luck with your career. I'm 12 years in, and I imagine if you stick with it for like another 20 years, you'll probably be, at the top. So
Yeah. Yeah.
good
Well,
stuff,
thank
man.
you for letting me jump up on here with you. I
Yeah,
definitely appreciate it.
absolutely, man. I love this episode. I love everything about In and Out, and I don't know why I haven't hit you up before to talk about it because I'm so fascinated by the food. I'm fascinated by the business. So it was cool having you on here. It's cool learning a little bit about it. It's fucking awesome how much pride you all take in being In and Out employees or managers or, like I said, anybody I've ever met, man, is just so involved and so in love with the culture. I think it's fantastic. Um, yeah, hopefully you guys listening enjoyed that. Let us know what you guys think. If you have any questions, I will put Shane's Instagram on the title or the description of this podcast episode. So if you guys want to hit him up, if you're interested in a job or like what it takes to be an In-N-Out employee, hit him up. Obviously, a a genuine dude, a talkative dude, so he probably won't have any problem like, sitting down and talking with you for a few minutes if that's something that interests you or if you just want more information. But yeah, leave us a comment, review us, let us know what you guys think. Hopefully, you all enjoyed it. Shane, thank you again, brother. It was a pleasure
Yeah.
talking to you, man.
Thank you, Corey.
Yes, sir. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.